لا إله إلا الله. لا تخلف الميعاد. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد، يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. We begin with the praise of Allah Rabbul Alameen and the exaltation of His divine names, asking from Him guidance, mercy, forgiveness, sustenance, protection. We even ask Him Jalla wa Ala that He protect us from sinning against Him, as well as we ask Him to protect us from the consequences of even when we do transgress. We bear witness to the testimony of faith that there is no God except for Allah Azza wa Jal, who is one without partners. Therefore all worship should be for Him Subhanahu, without any partners, without any intermediaries. And that the final prophet and messenger for humanity is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. Just a reminder for those of us that are here to once again do your best to make sure that you're not going to be distracted with anything of gadgets or people, that you're not going to be sitting so comfortably such that you fall asleep. That this is an act of worship, and we want to worship Allah Azza wa Jal with ihsan, with beauty, as though we can see Him Subhanahu. And although we do not see Him in this life, we certainly will in the next. We do know for sure that He sees us here in this life as well as in the next. So as best as we can, let us cooperate and let us get the most out of what Allah Azza wa Jal has decreed for us within this half hour of time that we have together. My beloved brothers and sisters, today we conclude the series dealing with suicide. Today we finish, and we're going to finish with the topic of treatment. Treatment. And I want to remind us of what Allah Rabbul Alameen tells us in Surah Al-Ma'idah in the 32nd ayah, when He tells us Tabarak wa Ta'ala, من أجل ذلك كتبنا على بني إسرائيل أنه من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا ومن أحياها فكأنما أحيا الناس جميعا. Where He tells us and reminds us, Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and it was for that we decreed upon the children of Israel that whoever kills a person, unless for another person or for corruption done in the land, it is as if they have slain mankind entirely. And whoever saves one, it is as if they have saved mankind entirely. So we want to understand that one person makes all the difference. If we can help one person, that makes all the difference. If we can prevent one person from harming themselves, we have done a tremendous thing. If Allah Rabbul Alameen through us can save one person, then alhamdulillah, it is as though we have saved the entirety of humanity. And we want to address this aspect of treatment in a holistic way, in the same way that we did last week with regards to prevention. The first of them deals with the mental aspect. And brothers and sisters, the mental aspect with regards to treatment in getting help is to actually get help. In the same way that if and when physically we have something of an ailment and it is not getting any better, and whatever intervention we're using, it is not making it go away to feel healthier, we go to the doctors. Regardless how much we love them or don't love them, or how our experiences are, we all go to the doctors. Even those of us who fake being doctors ourselves and try treating ourselves with who knows what, we eventually still go to the doctor. There is nothing different when you go to the psychiatrist or you go to the psychologist, except in the way that each of those two treats you, their specialization. In the same way that we see their specialization in medicine. Just because somebody's an orthopedic doctor, it doesn't mean that they work on every single bone in your body. They may only work on your shoulder. They may only work on your knee. They may only work on the neck. Well, we need to address the mental needs that we have. Psychiatrists focus on medicine, to the best of my understanding, while psychologists, therapists, counselors, whatever other names they may have, they do not use medicine. They are not allowed to prescribe medicine. So what should you do? Begin with any one of them. See them both. And alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, our community is seeing an increase in Muslim therapists. Brothers and sisters that are, alhamdulillah, specialized as therapists, as counselors, as well as, of course, in the field of medicine as psychiatrists. And that's much older for us. We have Muslims in that field from a long, long time ago. But there's no reason, there's no excuse. And there should certainly be nothing wrong or shameful with going to get help. The other aspect, ahibbati, is the physical. And let's understand that all of these are tied in. We want to pay attention to what we put in our bodies. Because believe it or not, whatever we're breathing in, whatever we're drinking, whatever we're ingesting, it's affecting our health and our wellness as a whole. And we may not think it is. But if we're living an unhealthy life, it's affecting us at every level, including up here and in here, at the mental and at the spiritual. So bad habits, get rid of them. Believe me, whatever problems you have in life, smoking cigarettes is not going to make them any better. Using whatever it may be of substances, of alcohol and drugs, you are only making it worse. By binging on junk food, you are not helping yourself in the least. So halalan tayyiban, that which is permissible by Allah Rabbul Alameen, which is nourishing, which is wholesome, which is nutritious. Let's try to make sure that we're drinking water as much as we can and stay off of all the other things. Let's try to eat that which is naturally from the ground and from what Allah Azza wa Jal has produced, with as little intervention of processing as possible. And let's also understand that part of this physicalness is that we need to differentiate between being busy and being productive. Because believe it or not, when we're just busy, we don't really feel too good about ourselves. Why? Because we feel like the whole day has gone and I haven't done anything. But I was busy as heck the whole entire time. Very different from when you're productive. When you're productive, you're focused. You know what you need to get done in the day. You've prioritized what your needs are. Sometimes we need help with that. And that's some of the stuff that the counselors and the therapists can also help us out with. When you're getting and accomplishing things that are of value and of importance in your life, you're going to feel great. And part of it is to beware of what shaitan tells us, especially sometimes when I hear some of our sisters where they complain and say, my life, it's been a waste. All I've done is raise the family and children. As though you have not done one of the most important things in the world. By Allah, I ask you, what's greater, that you produce something of plastic and metal, or that you raise a human being? What is more important, that you're generating profit for some company, or that you are nurturing and maintaining a healthy, happy home that has individuals that are the source of what everything else is about? But yes, inshallah, there may come a time that your children have all finished with regards to leaving the house and they're gone to school. Go back to college, that's beautiful. Seek something of a career or some type of gainful employment, that's fine. But the other thing we want to pay attention to, ahibba, is that we want to get out into Allah's creation a bit more. Because most of us, we're imprisoned within our own creations. From the house, to the car, to the workplace, to the car, to the house, we're in these walls. Well, believe it or not, it impacts us. How about we take advantage of our backyards, our front yards? How about we take a walk around the local park, drink our tea outside in the backyard, listen to the beautiful birds singing. So what, it's a little warm. So what, it's a little humid. So what, you're going to have to take a shower. Be grateful that you have a beautiful roof over your head and you have indoor plumbing. I remember when I first started in the Islamic University of Medina, there was a brother from Australia, and he was a bodybuilder, mashallah. And he gave all of us advice. He said, look, he said, pay attention to your physical health because it's going to affect everything else. He said, understand that the more that you're able to pay attention to your health and you're feeling physically strong and healthy and you have energy, he goes, it's going to also translate into everything else of your focus and of your ability to study and everything else. As you can tell, I didn't take his advice, right? But you don't have to be a bodybuilder to still pay attention to a healthy lifestyle. What else? The third focus is the emotional ahibba. And this is where we as a people, we really need to pay attention to how much stress we're causing for each other, because that's where most of our problems really lie. Most of our problems are people problems. And believe it or not, the majority of what we're undergoing of even physical ailments and things of that sort, that sometimes the doctors can or cannot find the reason for it, they attribute almost all of this stuff to stress. Stress, the silent killer. And I'll read you a little quote, a little excerpt from Sound Vision with regards to this aspect of the relationship between stress and suicide and mental health and illness. It says, while isolation, mental illness, and Islamophobia may play a more direct role in suicides in the Muslim community, perfectionism is a hidden cause that few discuss. We often come from cultures of perfectionism. You have to give this veneer of success in everything. And I touched a bit upon it the last time. We have such high standards that are not keeping a holistic view and balance of the human being. And when we place those perfectionist standards on others, well, what happens is a lot of the times there's going to be internal turmoil. There's going to be conflicts. Because understand, there's not a human being on the face of the earth that is perfect. And regardless of what you may see in other people's spouses or in other people's children or in other people's families, nobody's got it down perfectly. If we have something excellent in this thing, we're failing in another thing. Take that as a rule of thumb. So what should we really be aiming for? Is it to have the perfect model, mashallah? You're never going to get it. What we should be aiming for is to have happy Muslims within our home. That so long as, alhamdulillah, their iman, they are happy as Muslims, we have won. As parents, as spouses, that is the ultimate success for us. If we can have in addition to that everything else, alhamdulillah. But don't you think for an instant that by being a dictator in your home, that's going to get the results that you want. Because some of you have lived in dictatorship countries and you see what that was like. The other aspect, the hibbah, that we're suffering from is loneliness. And loneliness is not because you don't have people around you. Loneliness is because there's not a connection at the level of the heart with the people that are around you. And these blasted things, Allah knows best how much good or bad or what outweighs the other. But we must discipline ourselves such that we do not allow the technology to come between us and the people when we are sitting with each other. We are enjoying connecting with technology more than we are with our parents, with our spouses, with our siblings, with our children, with another human being. For goodness sake, we have chosen the matrix, being plugged in, than to living life itself. And the problem is that shaitan is going to continue to feed within us the belief that our lives are so mundane and boring because we're flipping through all of this other stuff of what people are doing and whatever else it is of what's happening out there. As though that snapshot, that little clip is what people's lives are like every single moment of every day of their lives. Come on, stop it. We're becoming, if we haven't already gotten there, so socially awkward that we live in the same house under the same roof. Parents don't know their children, children don't know their parents, siblings don't know each other, spouses don't know each other. And then we wonder what happens when we scratch our heads like decades later saying, I don't know what's going on. It's like I feel I'm living with strangers. Wallahi, that's not just you, that's almost all of us. The technology needs to be limited, it needs to be regulated. And with that, ahibbah, the more that we spend time with Allah Azza wa Jall's creation, believe it or not, it has healing effects to it, especially when we remember to make sure that we always maintain the most beautiful of character and speech with regards to each other. Because sometimes when you're going to be harsh, when you're going to be careless, when you're going to be thoughtless in the way that you speak and interact and who knows what of stuff, it's what causes people to kind of separate and causes them to isolate themselves and so on. So it causes some people to get a pet, to have that cat, and for some to even have that dog. Why? Because the level of affection and attention that they get from the animal, sadly, is far more than what they get from their own family members. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. أحبة, the last thing we're going to focus on is the spiritual aspect. And the spiritual one is something we should never minimize, that we should never forsake. And it hurts when I hear at times where people will say, yeah, all I was told is to pray or to do this, and nothing of that helped. Wallahi, Jama'ah, we got to understand that because maybe you did something doesn't necessarily mean that you did it right, or that you did it with full heart, or that you did it for the time that was needed, or that you've been doing it even before these things have happened in a way that should have prevented or should have helped in the healing process, or that even you're understanding it correctly. Because wherever you're at with regards to your issues in life, if you have maintained that ubudiyyah to Allah Azza wa Jal, that worship, that connection, understand that it could have always have been even worse. That it may be out of Allah Azza wa Jal's mercy that it is where it's at. And some people may still say, well, that's not reassuring or comforting at all. Wallahi, sometimes it's true, because the only way you can know what's worse is to have experienced it. And so that's where our trust in Allah Rabbul Alameen, it has to be there. But part of what we need to practice is ruqyah, Islamic healing. The Quran has a major role in this. Allah Rabbul Alameen throughout the Quran mentions in different places, and of them is this ayah that's in Surah Al-Isra, the 82nd, where he says, Tabarak wa Ta'ala, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And we send down from the Quran that which is healing, which is medicine, which is wellness, and mercy for the believers. So we want to make sure that we keep a healthy dosage of the Quran in our lives. And we have to be honest with ourselves. But that relationship with the Quran, it goes on different levels. One is just the reading of it. How many of us read it in the Arabic? How many of us have been Muslim for who knows how long, and we have not learned how to read the Quran correctly in the Arabic, in the way that Allah Azza wa Jal gave it to Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam, and in the way that Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam taught it to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It has been the case from that time on through today. How many of us? But the second thing, some of us were reading it, but we don't understand alif from lam. The Quran, yes, in and of itself, the Arabic, it has that healing power, but even more so is being able to understand what Allah is telling us and teaching us. Because in it, He's giving us solutions to our problems in life. He's comforting us. He's talking to us. Our prayers is another aspect, ahibba. One of the first things that people start to do is they leave their prayers. Why? Because we expect this magic silver bullet like this. And sometimes we'll even hear folks where they'll say, like, I pray, but yet, to be very honest, and please don't take it the wrong way, the first thing is, are we even praying correctly? I'm not always leading you in salah. Sometimes I come in, I'm late, and I come in the back, or I'm praying in the first row, and I see how people pray. Wallahi, sometimes we do not give the sajda its due right. The person pecks their nose onto the ground and they lift right up. If we're not making the salah correctly, understand that the mechanism by which you are coming closest to Allah Rabbul Alameen, it's defective. If you're driving your car on flat tires, are you really going to get to your destination in the way that if your tires were healthy and correct? Our salah is like flat tires for many of us. We go through the movements, we go through the motions, not understanding that the salah is that direct link and connection to Rabbul Alameen, the Lord of all creation, the one who has absolute control of everything, subhanahu. The one who, when He wills anything to be, all He does is command it, kun, be, fayakun, and it happens, it comes into existence, subhanallah. And we have to understand that that was from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. إِذَا حَزَبَهُ أَمْرٌ فَزِعَ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ. That whenever he was distressed by something, what did he do? He rushed to pray. He found that comfort in salah. Shaitan is causing us, first things first, to drop off everything that's Islamic. Don't do it. Don't listen to him. And as Allah Azza wa Jal tells us, يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين. O you who believe, seek help through patience and prayer. Indeed, Allah is with the patient. The sabr of what's mentioned here, it is of course patience, and of the mufassirun who say that it's also referring to fasting. We need to be patient. For a day, for a week, for a month, for a year or longer if it need be. But patience does not mean that we skip all the other 3-4 things of what we've been talking about. We need to get the help. We need to pay attention to all of those aspects of what are focusing on our wellness as a whole. We need to understand it and apply it correctly. And the last thing of what we'll mention in the spirituality is the remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal in the different du'as of supplications. When the going gets tough in our lives, brothers and sisters, here's the bottom line. We need to turn to Allah more. We need to turn to Allah Azza wa Jal even more sincerely, with greater dependence. We need to come to the absolute conclusion that there really is no help besides Allah Rabbul Alameen. There is no comfort besides Him Subhanahu. And when we can fill our hearts and our souls and our minds and our bodies with His remembrance, living in the blessed way of what He wants from us, of what He's given us of guidance, have certainty that you are certainly on the right path, headed in the right direction, and with each step that you take, you are only getting better and closer. And we ask that Allah Rabbul Alameen that He answer the du'as of what we're going to make. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad. Kama salita ala Ibrahim.